Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
There are two kinds of opinion polls. One that take place in the run-up to an election that predict how many seats who will win. Now, those are easy to check out because you know that soon enough there will be an election and they will be counting and you will know who was right and who was wrong. But there is also a second type of opinion poll which is more in a way notional or indicative. That happens periodically when there isn't an election expected right away. So these are not predicting an election, but these give you an indication of who's popular, who's unpopular, what are the issues foremost in people's minds, and theoretically, if there was an election today, who will win. Now, the poll which has lasted the longest in this genre is the India Today Mood of the Nation poll, which I think has gone on for decades now. And generally you would find every time the poll comes out, people get angry on some side or the other. Some celebrate it, some get angry. That's true of all opinion polls, even pre-election opinion polls. But generally over the decades, over the years, this poll has built itself a reputation of quite a bit of reliability. One thing I can say for sure, having worked at India Today for more than 12 years, is that they will never fix a poll. Nevertheless, here we are, the latest Mood of the Nation India Today poll is out, and it's good for us that this data is put in public because we then have some data to analyze. Otherwise, people like us become like theoreticians, or what sometimes I call in my more I'd say irreverential moments, thoughters, because thinkers are those who think, thoughters are those who think they have thought everything through already. So what prevents us from becoming thoughters or lapsing into being thoughters all the time is data like this. So the latest poll is out, it's just been published, not all the details, but the headline details are there. And I'm sure most of you know the basic headlines, which is that if an election is held today, then NDA, although it's a truncated NDA, a lot of the partners who was there in the last election 2019 are no longer there. Shiv Sena isn't there, the Akali Dal isn't there, some more aren't there. So leave them out. Even then NDA will get 321, BJP will get 291, very important. They got 303, so they just lose about 12 seats compared to that, which is remarkable given that almost 2 years have gone now since that election, because remember, election voting begins much before mid-May when the results come out. So that is quite a bit of resilience. And remember the line we've used in the past. We said that the Americans like to say that somebody is Teflon coated, but Teflon also wears out with use in the course of time. So with Narendra Modi, it does look like this is not Teflon coated, but this is cast in titanium, and that seems to be continuing. I know that this data was put out last night, and after that my friend Rajdeep Sardesai was attacked quite a bit, trolled quite a bit, but he didn't make up this data. This is the data which a polling agency, Karvy in this case, has presented before India Today. So we have to take it at face value. We don't have to say all of it has to be correct, but if you don't question the intentions either of the pollsters or of the publication, which I will not, then this is something to talk about. Agree, disagree, learn lessons, don't learn lessons. So 321 for NDA, there's 93 for UPA, for the BJP 293, a little bit less, marginally less, all within the scope of error from 303. The Congress 51, so pretty much where they were the last time. So you know, even with nearly 2 years of anti-incumbency, COVID, economic decline, joblessness, which all come out in this survey, by the way. People are not delusional. In spite of that, Congress remains where it is. So if you look at the overall vote percentages, those are also quite instructive, because if you see the NDA, it's 43%, right? UPA on the other hand is 27%. That's a 16% gap. In first past the post system, that's a lot, because next party with the largest chunk of votes gets only 3% of the vote, right? So between 43 and 27 in FPTP, first past the post, it's a landslide. So 43% to 27%. And then again, importantly, BJP is at 37%, which is pretty much the same as they had the last time, with a little margin of error here and there. And Congress is absolutely the same as the last time, that is 19%. And 19%, as you know, is the half of about a half of 37%. So that gap again is massive. And remember, this is when Congress also gets a lot of votes in states where BJP does not have a presence, states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, etc., etc. Whereas all the states where BJP gets votes, Congress is present. There is a data point that I've shared with you several times before, and it's a very important data point, so I will share it with you again as a reminder that in the last election, in all the constituencies of Parliament, when Congress was the main rival of the BJP, so it was BJP 1, Congress 2, BJP had a winning rate or a strike rate of 92%. That is stupendous. And once again, if you look at this data, that is 43% NDA, 27% UPA, 37% BJP alone, and 19% Congress. You know where we are coming from, and you know that a weak Congress is the BJP's, is the Modi Shah BJP's biggest strength. So that is the larger political point. Like it, don't like it, you can disagree, but this is data. You can't wish away data. And it hasn't been wrong in the past or too wrong in the past. In fact, this poll has built a good reputation over time on track record. Now, some other interesting highlights in this poll. And if you remember, we had done another Cut the Clutter on the last edition of Mood of the Nation poll by India Today. That was episode 544. I am sharing a link with you. Now, amazing thing is how little has changed in the past 6 months. That was August last year. In spite of the fact that these 6 months, the pandemic has continued on to rage. A lot of us had thought that once summer begins, once summer sets in about 6 months, this will go, but it hasn't yet gone. It's very much there. Now, some interesting data is coming up there. First of all, who is the best performing minister in Modi cabinet? So again, no change. It was seen to be Amit Shah the last time. It is still Amit Shah now. 39% of the respondents think he is the best performing minister. Who is the second best performing minister? Way down with a large gap, but it's Rajnath Singh, 14%. I think also helped along by the fact that he seemed to have responded quite maturely and firmly to the Chinese problem in Ladakh. And number 3 is Gadkari at 10%. So 39, 14, 10, all the others are here and there. In fact, I would have, if I was doing this poll, I would have liked to put a question to asking how many people can actually name 10 ministers in Narendra Modi's cabinet. I suspect the answer would have been exactly what I expect, which is very low. Now, the next trick question, who is the most popular successor to Modi? Now, 38% of the respondents still want Narendra Modi to be the Prime Minister the next time also. Now, it's very interesting because 38% actually is more than the BJP's vote of 37%. And beyond that also, the next 2 candidates that people talk about are also BJP leaders. So, many more voters than just BJP voters, according to this poll, would prefer a chief minister from the BJP. Maybe that also comes from the presumption that it will be a BJP government or a BJP-led NDA government. So the interesting thing is, while Amit Shah is the most popular minister, is seen to be the best performing minister, he is not seen as a natural successor to Narendra Modi, although marginally so. So as I said to you, 38% respondents still hope or believe that Narendra Modi will be the best successor of Narendra Modi, if I can put it like that. 10%, the next in line at 10% only, so the gap is 38 to 10, is Yogi Adityanath. And Amit Shah comes third at 8%. So you see this is marginal, but you see Yogi Adityanath having risen in popularity. I presume that this 10% and this 8% is coming essentially from BJP's Pakka voters. So BJP's voters even to the right of Narendra Modi. Even among them, Yogi Adityanath has now left Amit Shah behind. That's a very interesting thing. Although the gap is small, it's still within the margin of error, but it is very interesting. Then you see what are Narendra Modi's biggest achievements, and that's again very interesting. In the last poll, the biggest achievement, 20% saw Ram Mandir as the biggest achievement. At this point, 27% see that as the biggest achievement. So there's been a change there, 20 to 27, sample size is small, just 12,000 plus, but there's a science to this. Nevertheless, there is a change, so it goes from 20 to 27%, maybe indicating or underlining that the power of Hindutva is actually growing instead of diminishing. Also in times of adversity, people think of God, I suppose, but that's a facetious comment, leave it there. The second biggest achievement, according to this poll, is abolition or effective abolition or abrogation of Article 370, that is 20%. Handling of COVID, 15% think that is the finest achievement of Modi government. But there is a twist there. The twist is only 15% think that is the finest achievement of Modi government, but 73% of Indians think, according to this poll, that Modi government's handling of the COVID epidemic has been outstanding or good. In fact, I will give you the breakup there. 23% think it's been outstanding, 50% think it's been good, 18% think it's been average, and only 7% think it's been poor. 2% had no answer. Only 7% think it's been poor. So that's a very interesting pointer that we should think about, and it's quite likely, and that's something that I am saying by way of my analysis or interpretation of this in consultation with D.K. Singh, our political editor, that this could be one of the reasons why Amit Shah gets such a high rating for his performance as a minister, because he has been seen to be leading the COVID effort. So that's where we are. Now then you come to some other interesting findings which make the first plot that we shared with you right now sort of counterintuitive, but people have sort of their own ways of thinking. So 67% of respondents say that Modi government's handling of the economy post pandemic has been good. 67% say it's been good or outstanding. In fact, 67% say it's been good, 20% say it's been outstanding. Now I will give you the other data. The other data tells you that at the same time 66% of respondents say that they've suffered a loss of incomes due to the pandemic. Now 66% say they've suffered a loss of the of incomes because of the pandemic, and these include workers, farmers, self-employed people, businessmen and women, and those involved in services. So across categories, in fact, if you cut and dice data across categories, then this goes in these 5 categories, this goes between 69% and 61%. So about the same. Everybody has suffered. More than 2/3 of Indians have suffered a loss of income because of the pandemic, and yet 67% say that Modi government's handling of the economy post the pandemic has been good. Now you can laugh, cry, applaud, feel bad, call the pollster names, all those are choices available in a democracy. But this is what the situation is according to this poll. Now if you further cut that data, you get more interesting pointers. 1 in 5 Indians, according to this poll, said that they lost their job or business during the pandemic. 1 in 5, that is 20%. It's a lot. Only 1 in 3 say they benefited from whatever stimulus came, and I suspect most of it will be something that came by way of delays on loan repayments, or people at the poorer levels who got direct payments from Modi government. So 1 in 3 say they benefited from stimulus, 1 in 5 say they lost their job or business because of the pandemic. Then come to another counterintuitive finding. Where did people go when they fell sick with COVID-19? 61% went to government hospitals, 24% went to private hospitals. I presume the rest treated themselves at home because they were either asymptomatic or lightly symptomatic. Now, 61% government hospitals, 24% private hospitals. You can say it's okay because government hospitals are a lot more, and a lot of India, particularly rural and small town India, does not have private hospitals or that many private hospitals. But look at the satisfaction level. 76% of all respondents are satisfied with the medical care they got at these hospitals. And you know what? This satisfaction level is the same for government hospitals and private hospitals. Now, once again, you might say this doesn't sound all right, but this is the way people in India are thinking according to this poll, which once again, to underline to you, has built quite a reputation over time. Then, very important data point. Will you take a vaccine? Do you trust a vaccine? 76% say yes, I will take a vaccine. 21% say no. Some others are undecided, just a few, but 76% say yes. That's very high internationally. So, vaccine skepticism or vaccine hesitancy that we have seen among medical personnel is not seen in general population. I presume the general population also believes that vaccines, by the time they come to them, will be all tested and proven. Some of the health workers today could be doubtful, one because they are the first to be taking it, and second, one of the two vaccines still doesn't have any phase 3 efficacy or safety data. That's an important point, but people by and large expect that this will be these will be tested, and once they are proven, vaccines will come to them. So, a majority are willing to take the vaccines. Of course, 92% want the vaccine to be given free. Remember, we keep saying we are a country of freedom fighters in more ways than one. We want everything free, particularly if it comes from the government. Now, we move to the states, because I might have been inclined to say, oh, this is nothing but Modi Bhakti. Remember, in episode 544, I have said now there is a big Bhakti cult built around Narendra Modi. So, it doesn't matter whether he does poorly or well, people go with him. They see him as some kind of an avatar, at least his followers. So, they can see nothing wrong with him. But this is not exactly a Bhakti cult for Narendra Modi. This is more the phenomenon that I had mentioned to you in 544, episode 544. That is, when a human being falls sick and goes to a doctor or goes to a hospital, you instinctively trust the doctor, you instinctively trust the nurses, you instinctively trust the medicines, because you also have no choice. You have to have faith to do well. Why do I say this now? I say this because the data of this poll on popular perception of how their state governments have performed. A lot of the states in this country do not have BJP governments. In fact, many of these major states have non-BJP governments. Maharashtra, a very good example, Rajasthan. But you see, 50% of respondents think their state government's performance on handling COVID has been good. 21.5% think it's average. That is 71.5% think it's good or average. How many think it's poor? 7%. How many of all respondents think Modi government's handling of the pandemic has been poor nationally? Just 7%. So, maybe these 7% are Meena Kumaris who always have to cry or have to see something wrong. But there is some logic to that, because these state governments include many state governments which are non-BJP governments. West Bengal, for example, state governments that are strongly opposed to the BJP and to Narendra Modi. Punjab, don't forget, all of them are there. Only 2% think that state government's handling is very poor. How many people think Modi government's handling of the pandemic has been very poor? 2%. So, once again, I'm so sorry, I'm a fan of Meena Kumaris, but that is the Meena Kumari syndrome. Good thing is that very few people in India seem to be carrying that much negativity. Now, the question that arises is, the analytical question that arises is, so what happens? We know that the economy is done badly. What kind of nonsense is this? 66% people say they've seen a loss in their incomes, but 67% say the handling of the economy by Modi government has been brilliant. So what the hell is going on? What are people drinking, smoking, etc., etc.? Now, people are not stupid, and people are not drinking and smoking, or whatever they are drinking or smoking, they've been doing for generations. So they haven't gotten on to something nutty recently to become completely irrational. People are not irrational. It's also a question that we need to raise about how the message that Modi government is not doing well in certain areas is being taken to people, but because these people have not been voting for BJP all their lives. They were voting for other parties, in fact a lot of them for the Congress all their lives. They switched 2014 onwards, and that is what the Congress party has to think. How come the Congress party is still stuck at 51 seats? It's one thing to complain that BJP remains firm at its ballpark figure, 291 now, 303 earlier, about the same. But it's more troublesome for the Congress people or Modi critics that Congress remains stuck at 51. Why is it so? So maybe there is a reason there, and the reason is that Congress and the opposition in general have been trying to hit Modi where it doesn't hurt him, which is on nationalism, which might be on religion, which might be on communal harmony, which might be on corruption, because those are areas where people don't doubt his intentions. That's why the Rafale campaign failed. That's why the campaign of mishandling of COVID failed, because people have faith in Narendra Modi that even if he makes a mistake, it's a mistake made in good faith. And Congress should have learned that from the fact that people of India, voters of Narendra Modi, forgave him completely for demonetization, which was the biggest mistake he has made so far. In fact, so bad that even he doesn't mention it anymore, his finance minister doesn't mention it anymore, nobody does. But this was forgiven because people thought that he was doing something with good intentions, didn't work, kabhi kabhi hota hai. And I think that is how we saw in Bihar, they also responded to the migrant crisis. So Congress and Modi's opponents, if we had focused on things which are obviously bad, unemployment, declining economy, declining incomes, etc., 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 just focused on that, maybe they would have done better. They have continued to, if I may use a cricketing comparison, which I often do, because I can use a comparison from track and field or tennis or badminton. I've covered them all and I like them all, but I know that cricket is easiest for the largest number of our viewers, listeners, readers to understand. So if I take a cricketing comparison, I will take you back to the World Cup, ODI World Cup semi-final of 1987, that far back, India versus England. How did India lose that match? India lost that match because England came up to bat. In fact, see those scoreboards, I will share 2 screenshots with you. Of the 254 England scored, a bulk was scored by Graham Gooch, 115, and Mike Gatting, 56. I remember those figures by heart because those figures are a scar. Then you see who is the bowler that proved to be the most expensive. It was India's best spin bowler at that time, Maninder Singh, left arm spinner. What happened? We thought that Englishmen would sweep compulsively, so keep feeding the sweep shot, so either one will miss it, be LBW or bowl round his legs, or put one top edge one in the air. That didn't happen. What we also forgot at that point was that the sweep shot against spin was also the strength of the English players. It was their getaway shot, and they kept on, both of them kept on sweeping Maninder Singh, and as a consequence England got all the runs it should not have got on form, and because the game was in India on an Indian pitch. And second, Maninder Singh turned out to be the most expensive bowler that day, the most expensive full-time bowler that day. A similar mistake, probably, I am just putting forward this hypothesis, is being made by the Congress and the opposition right now, bowling at Modi. They are feeding to his strengths. They are not working on his weaknesses.